I saw a meme the other day that said, "Stop saying that God is silent. He's actually really loud, we just have spiritual hearing loss." And I couldn't help but think how relevant that is for so many of us right now. We're desperate for an answer, a sign, a word from him. But maybe he's already spoken, maybe we just need spiritual eyes to see it. Today we're breaking down Isaiah 43:19, a word for the day that says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" In this passage, God is telling his people not only that he's doing something new, but that it's already happened. It's done, it's finished. The hard part is that they couldn't see it yet, they couldn't perceive it. But he's calling them to shift their perspective and look again because it's already happened. He wants them to know that he's in control and that he's got a plan for them. And friends, if this is where you are right now, I want you to know that God is not silent. God is actually really loud. We just might have spiritual hearing loss. So let's take a few minutes today to open our spiritual ears, eyes, and hearts so that we can hear what he's saying. Number 1, God specializes in the impossible. Look at the first part of the verse and the context around it. Isaiah 43:13 through 16 says, "My people, those who are surrendered to me, are like sheep from the same pen. My people, what are you to boast about? What can you proclaim? Summon your arguments and tell me what the outcome will be. Surely the Lord has this same God, ancient and eternal. I am he. I am the first, and I am the last. There is no God besides me. I equip you, though you did not know me, that they may know and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, nor will there be one after me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I am he who has this in mind, who has declared this of old my former things which I have brought to pass, and who will declare what is yet to come." In these verses, God reminds his people that he's the only true God. He's been with them since the beginning, and he's going to be with them until the end. And then in verse 19 he says, "See, I am doing a new thing." Friends, when we read these verses, we can't help but think of all the times God has done the impossible for us. He made a way through the Red Sea. He brought water from a rock. He turned the wilderness into a place of fruitfulness. When we think back over all that God has done, we know that there's nothing too hard for him. He specializes in making a way where there is no way. So if you're in a situation right now that seems impossible, I want you to remember that God specializes in the impossible. So don't give up. Don't lose hope. Don't stop believing, because I promise you, God is working. Number 2, waiting doesn't mean abandonment. Sometimes it feels like we're waiting forever for God to move. We're desperate for a breakthrough. We're crying out for a miracle. But it seems like we're just stuck in this in-between season where nothing is happening. And we start to wonder, is God working? Is he listening? Or has he maybe even forgotten about me? That's where this verse comes in. Just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean he isn't working behind the scenes. Just because you haven't seen the answer yet doesn't mean he hasn't already provided. We have to trust that he's got a plan and that his timing is perfect. Remember, the Israelites were waiting for God to deliver them from slavery in Egypt, and he didn't do it right away. They had to wait 40 years before he finally brought them into the promised land. But through that wait, he proved himself faithful. He provided for them in the wilderness. He showed them his power through the plagues and the parting of the Red Sea. And ultimately, he brought them out of slavery into freedom. So if you're feeling like you're waiting too long for an answer, know that waiting doesn't mean abandonment. Keep holding on, keep believing, God is working. Number 3, our eyes can't always see reality. Look at the last part of the verse. It says, "Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" The Hebrew word for springs up means to jump up, to leap up, or to rise suddenly. This is God's way of saying, "Hey, open your eyes and look around. What you're seeing right now is not all there is. There's more here than meets the eye. What you're looking at is not what you'll get. You have to shift your perspective and look again." In the natural, we may look at our circumstances and see nothing but difficulty, struggle, and hardship. But in the spiritual, we need to ask God to help us see what he sees. Because what we see in the natural doesn't always line up with what's happening in the spiritual. For example, the Israelites were wandering around in the wilderness, and they looked around and saw nothing but a barren, dry desert. But God was planting rivers and springs of water. Moses looked at the ground and saw a desert, but when God showed him the spiritual reality, he saw a place full of water. So we have to be careful that we don't just look at our circumstances and make decisions based on what we see. Instead, we need to ask God to show us what He sees, because what we see in the natural may not always line up with what's happening in the spiritual. Number 4, faith requires trust in the unseen. God doesn't always tell us what He's going to do before He does it. He often lets us walk by faith and not by sight. And that can be scary. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to know that we're making the right decision. But sometimes He calls us to trust Him in the unknown, and that's exactly what He's saying here. He's saying, I'm doing something new. I'm making a way in the wilderness. But you can't see it yet. You have to trust that I'm working. Abraham is a great example of this. When God called him to leave his home and go to a new land, He didn't tell him everything that was going to happen. He just said, "Go and I will bless you." Abraham had to trust that God would make good on His promise even though he didn't see it yet. And He did. Time and time again, Abraham walked by faith, not by sight. And his faith became the foundation of what we believe today. So if you're in a season where you don't see the answer, where you don't see the breakthrough, where you don't see the miracle, know that God is calling you to walk by faith, not by sight. Trust that He's working behind the scenes even when you can't see it. Trust that He's got a plan for you even when it doesn't make sense. Trust that He loves you and He's got your best interest at heart even when it doesn't feel like it. Number 5, you're not meant to understand everything right now. There are some things we just don't get to see or understand. It's not that God doesn't want us to understand. It's that sometimes He's working behind the scenes in ways that we can't comprehend. He's moving pieces on the chessboard that we don't see. He's making connections that we don't understand. And that's okay. We don't have to understand everything right now. We're called to walk by faith, not by sight. We're called to obey, not to question. Sometimes the only way we can see what God is doing is by looking back after He's already done it. We have to trust that He's working, even when we don't see it. We have to believe that He's got a plan, even when it doesn't make sense. We have to know that He's faithful even when we don't feel it. So if you're in a season where you don't see what God is doing, don't worry about it. Don't try to figure it out. Just walk by faith. Just obey what He's saying. Trust that He's working behind the scenes. Number 6, God will make a way. I know that no matter how dry your season feels, no matter how hard it is to believe, God will make a way. He will bring you through. He will give you a reason to praise Him. Just hold on. Just keep believing. Just trust that He's working. Okay, friends, that's everything I have for you today. If this video spoke to your heart, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. And while you're at it, why not share it with someone who needs to hear this message? Walk in faith, friends. Walk in faith.